Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seahawks Recap Show playoff game recap for the last Sunday night game. And this is wildcard game recap number 4. And this one was highly anticipated. Matthew Stafford's return to the Detroit Lions. And man, this game delivered. This is the by far the best playoff game of them all right now. And we've still got two more to go after tonight. And man, it's just insane because this was a really good game. Anyways, enough of me rambling. Let's get into the recap. And it was the Lions versus the Rams. And this one was a very tight one indeed. The Lions win 24 to 23 over the visiting Rams and Matthew Stafford. Let's get into the stats and let's start off with Detroit. They had 334 total yards, 255 passing, 79 rushing yards, averaged 6.1 yards per play, 23 first downs. They went 3 for 9 on third down. They went 1 for 1 on fourth down. They had 55 total plays, 3 sacks allowed, 3 punts, had 5 penalties for 34 yards given up, 0 fumbles, 0 interceptions, and 29 minutes and 55 seconds of possession time. For the Rams and Matthew Stafford, they had 425 total yards, 357 yards passing, 68 yards rushing. They averaged 7.7 yards per play, 22 first downs. They went 3 for 9 on third down. So they did the same as the Lions, deja vu, and they went 1 for 1 on fourth down, same as the Lions, deja vu. They had 55 total plays, 2 sacks allowed, 2 punts, 4 penalties for 36 yards given up, 0 fumbles, 0 interceptions, and 30 minutes and 5 seconds of possession time. The stats in this game don't lie. This game was a lot closer, and it was just really nice because this is what playoff football is all about. We want the games like this to be close and not the previous like 4 games that were or 3 games rather that were blowouts. And for Ryan's focus players, let's talk about this home crowd and let's talk about Jared Goff going 22 for 27, 277 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. And honestly, this game was Jared Goff against his former team in the playoffs and the Rams having Matthew Stafford going against the Lions, who was his former team in the playoffs. So these quarterbacks really delivered. So it was really nice to see. And Jared Goff, honestly, played a masterful game. It was really good. The pressure was high. People were chanting his name in the stands even before the game started. So really glad for Jared Goff having a good game there. And someone else who had a really good game was the rookie in Jahmyr Gibbs. And, he was picked 12th overall, I believe, in last year's draft. 8 carries, 25 yards, averaged 3.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. His stats don't really show that he was great, but the receiving stats do. 4 receptions, 43 yards, 10.8 yards per reception, and 0 touchdowns. That is great for Jahmyr Gibbs, especially when they have David Montgomery, who did a really good job himself, 56 yards. I think it was like 15 carries or something like that. So really nice to see Jahmyr Gibbs out there and playing really well for the team. And let's not forget the wide receiver that I believe was really snubbed from the Pro Bowl, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 receptions, 110 yards, averaged 15.7 yards per reception, 0 touchdowns. And he was great, though, in this game, being able to be a big part of this Lions team. He's one of the captains. And, you show up in these big games, and this is what a big body receiver can do to you. He's a very physical receiver, and he's throwing people around, stiff arming them. getting the yardage he needs, and that's why he's one of the best receivers in the league. And for the Rams side, let's talk about Matthew Stafford. And if you've watched any of my game recaps or anything involving where I've mentioned Matthew Stafford on the Rams, you know I love Matthew Stafford. 25 for 36, had 367 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, clean games. And, in Matthew's return to Detroit, Matthew Stafford's turn in Detroit, he really did really well, putting on a show. And also, someone that put on a show but got injured in this game was Kyrie Williams. 13 carries, 61 yards, averaged 4.7 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns. And again, Kyrie Williams, fifth round pick this year. And, it was insane. It's mental to see how the Rams can get rid of all their picks in the world and then hit on fifth round picks, because this guy was just electrifying. Another guy that was electrifying was the rookie wide receiver Puka Nacua. 9 receptions, 181 yards, 20.1 yards per reception, the 1 touchdown. Again, a guy like Amon-Ra that is just immaculate. Immaculate. You can't say anything bad about Puka Nacua's game, because he's, again, another physical wide receiver that helped out Matthew Stafford a lot in this game, and he broke a rookie receiving record in the postseason that held up since like 1956 or something like that. There was like a record in there or something like it was just insane. This is a rookie in one of the biggest games of his career, the biggest game of his career, and he puts up numbers like this. That's mental, man. So good game from Puka Nacua. Next up is the Lions defense. And when we look at the Lions defense, who do you think of? Well, I think of D lineman Aiden Hutchinson, 4 solo tackles, 2 assisted, 2 sacks, 0 forced fumbles. And the defense for the Lions paved the way. They wanted to stop the run game, and they did that. They tried to neutralize the run game. They couldn't get anything going for the Rams in the first half in the run game. The Rams just couldn't get anything going. And, in the past game, they were a little bit sluggish, but nice to see Aiden Hutchinson with 2 sacks on the day. And those pressures really, I think, were defining moments in this game in a tightly contested one. Let's get to corner or safety, because he can play both. Brian Branch, a rookie coming out of this year's draft, 3 solo tackles, 4 assisted, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. And he was on Puka Nacua, he was on Cooper Kupp, he was taking assignments, and this guy can fly around. This guy is very good at what he does, breaking up passes, and he can tackle. So it's really, really good to see a guy like Brian Branch coming in as a rookie and not really being too phased and too fussed about his assignments. He played a heck of a game in this game. So congrats to Brian Branch. And another linebacker, a very underrated linebacker, in my opinion, Alex Anzalone, 6 solo tackles, 2 assisted, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. A guy with the blonde flow that can just tackle up a storm. He is a very underrated linebacker. I don't think he's talked about enough unless you're in Detroit, because this guy is a monster, being able to be a solid linebacker for them in the middle, usually getting in there, getting dirty, being able to make solid tackles on runners, being able to make solid tackles on wide receivers, tight ends, all that you want. And he played a really crucial role, again, in a tight game, breaking up a few passes here and there, but his main job was to tackle, and he did it very well. On the other side, the Rams weren't no slouches either. And you're kind of probably being surprised that I didn't pick Aaron Donald to be in the D line spot. And that's partly because Aaron Donald really couldn't get much going in this game, because he was being triple teamed on almost every snap he took. That was one of the big things from Dan Campbell, saying that he didn't want Aaron Donald to be the reason why they lost this game. So he wasn't. He took that away. And I gave it to Jonah Williams because he was able to make some decent plays himself. Two solo tackles, one assisted, zero sacks, zero forced fumbles. And in the beginning of the game, in the first half of the game, the Rams couldn't get pressure on Jared Goff. They were trying all these different ways to get into Jared Goff's face and everything, and he was just standing in there, able to fire wherever he wanted and get a completion out of it. So in the second half is where things changed for the Rams. The defense really dialed up the pressure. I don't know what they really did, but they had, everybody pitching in, and Jonah Williams did some of the dirty work. He didn't get any sacks, but he did have a couple of pressures in there where he got inside and got to Jared Goff's face and made him uneasy in pocket. So good game from Jonah Williams. And let's talk about one of my favorite DBs on the Rams. It is safety John Johnson III. 4 solo tackles, 2 assisted, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. And he's one of my favorite safeties on the Rams because I really enjoyed when he was on the Browns way back. And he's just always been a reliable safety. I think, he doesn't also get enough credit for what he's done, but he's always a guy that's always there, always trying to be consistently, in the play. At least if he's not making a play on the ball, he's at least trying to tackle. And it's really hard to tackle guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's really hard to tackle guys like Josh Reynolds. It's really hard in the NFL to be a safety sometimes. And, John Johnson's been doing it for many years now. So good game from him. Good solid stats. And the linebacker, you've heard his name before on my shows if you watched any of my Seahawks game recaps, and it's Ernest Jones, and I love this guy. Man, 4 solo tackles, 5 assisted, 2 sacks, no interceptions. He is the lifeblood of this Rams team, and you know what? He is leading them in tackles. He led them in tackles with, I believe, 185 or something. Like he did some things this year for this Rams defense, and he did some things here for the Rams in this playoff game, getting 2 sacks. So good to see from Ernest Jones, still a tackling machine and still a menace to watch out for on the field for the Rams. But my final thoughts, nothing but love for these two teams. Honestly, congrats to the Detroit Lions for winning their first playoff game in 32 years. What an accomplishment for these Detroit Lions fans. You guys are some of the most patient fans in the league when it comes to your team. What stands out to me, though, in this tightly contested game is that in the second half, this Detroit defense held the Rams and Matthew Stafford to only 2 red zone trips with 2 field goals. I can't wait to see what this team does in the divisional round because you couldn't ask for a better story. You couldn't ask for a better playoff game. If the NFL is scripted, and that is what some people say, this game was just insane. This game was great to see. So I wish the Lions all the luck in the Super Bowl that they need. And I really, really want to see them do well because their fans deserve it. Dan Campbell deserves it. Everybody deserves it. And for the Rams, guys, you played a hell of a game. Just couldn't find a way to score a touchdown against the Lions in the second half. You guys really deserve to be in the playoffs this year, and you guys showed us why. You were second in the NFC West, overtaking the Seahawks, and everybody is surprised by the turnaround you guys had from last year's team to this year's. This is something to be proud of, regardless of the result tonight. You guys were insane. You know, to come back from a year where you guys did not do great at all. It looked like you had regress after your Super Bowl win 2 years ago. And to see that this was quote unquote a rebuilding year for you guys is just insane. You guys know what is up when it comes to being in LA. You guys are a great great team. And I know because I'm a Seahawks fan. I face you guys 2 times a year, and every time you guys surprise me in the regular season. So, good job from both teams. This was the most exciting playoff game because this was what we expected the playoffs to look like, and it was a really good game. Anyways, that is it for day 2 of the wild card. I will see you all on Monday tonight, or later on tomorrow on Tuesday for the rest of the playoff game recaps for Super Wildcard Weekend. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope the last set of games here are as close as this one here. Anyways, go Hawks go, and I will see you in the next video.